Hard Hat Hockey. Welcome in, everybody. What a week. Boy, are we lucky to be witnessing a historical run here by the Edmonton Oilers. If you would have asked me a week ago, we'd be tied 3-3 going into Game 7. Not a chance. And that's why I've lost all my money betting on this series. I haven't even been close to accurate with this one. We've got an amazing show for you today. Going to be so much fun. Always here with my boy Grant Miller. What up, baby?
How we doing, Trent? I didn't know you were in financial stress. We don't talk gambling action like we used to, but I hope you figure it out.
Yeah, don't tell the wife, but I bet, I bet the car.
Sure she won't listen.
Yeah, I bet the car. I bet some insurance policies. So, hopefully I can right the ship here and stabilize a little bit. So, no, everybody, I'm just kidding. I nickel and dime. That's not my game. I'm nowhere near good enough. As you can tell, I haven't predicted one game correct. We have a great friend of ours and a celebrity in his own right, incredible guest joining us here today. For today's show, we're going to be talking Game 7. Walking with you every step of the way. And we've got some draft preview as well, along with our normal segments, NHL housekeeping and hard hats of the week. And then some new ones we're adding. New tradition's going to start today, folks. You don't want to miss this. Hop on the train with us and let's get into this. From Chicago, downtown Chicago, in the Loop, I think it's called, and he could speak to it best. We've got Chicago Blackhawks native and expert that's going to be walking us through the draft, the preview, how important this is for the city of Chicago, and how we're going to boost Conor Bedard to get Chicago back on the map, potentially as soon as next season. And with that, I'd like to bring in Jonathan Cates. What is up, J-Train?
Let's go, Trent. So I have to say, you and I are equally in the toilet when it comes to hockey bets. So I put my mortgage on the Blackhawks to win the Stanley Cup this year after they beat the Pens in the first game of the season, 10,000 to 1 odds. And as you can imagine, that was just not the best bet. So yeah, you and I can live in our sorrows there, but
you don't want to lose money on those odds, though. I mean, I get it.
We're just one step away from being a billionaire, Grant. So, but anywho, it's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. Chicago is one of the, I'm pretty biased, but I think it's the greatest city in the world. Great sports town. Me and myself as the most blue collar software sales rep out there. I'm just scrapping out here every day with my boys.
Sales is a grind, dude. People don't realize. If you're not in that world, it's feast and famine.
Just one call at a time, baby. One call at a time. So yeah, it's great to be here, guys.
Awesome. Folks out there, I want everyone to know I had the fortunate pleasure of going to a Blackhawks game back in December. We took the wives out on the town, hit one of those pop-up Christmas bars. So walking into the United Center after hours of pop-up Christmas bars, you can imagine we were pretty tuned up. The vibes were immaculate. And we did actually place a bet that night that came in. We just took Chicago money line straight up, and that cashed in for us. I think they won 3-2. Had an amazing time. Those fans are obviously a tradition on their own, being an original six. Great jerseys, great logo, great thing they got going on at the United Center. Treated so well. Great host, and that was a lot of fun, Johnny. We want to hear from you. Contact us currently on Facebook, Twitter, and our email, hardhathockey1@gmail.com. We had a few people reach out this past week, boys. We've got Ashley Pulver of Louisville, Kentucky. Ashley is a big-time scuba diver, very impressive, and used to go to all the Louisville River Frogs games, the minor league hockey team. I think they were ECHL at the time. Fun fact, I also went to those, and they were a great ticket, great sell.
Shout out to the East Coast League.
Love it.
Shout out to, they don't exist anymore, Dayton Bombers. That's where I grew up watching hockey. I would love to talk more minor league hockey on this podcast at some point.
Well, I want to get somebody on from the new team out at Tahoe this summer, so
Ooh, yeah, that would be good.
Discuss at a later date. Also, reaching out, we had Julia Thompson from Charleston, South Carolina. She reached out last week. We asked about best moments with hockey in the NHL with your father in honor of Father's Day. And she used to love driving up from Charleston up to Raleigh, those Caniacs up there, to watch the Hurricanes. I wonder if she was there around 2006 when Brenda Moore brought that brought the cup to town. So Julia, we hear you. We appreciate you. Spread the love. We love the Caniacs. Let everybody know. Tune in to Hard Hat Hockey. All right. We gave you your episode rundown. Your question for the day to chew on. Who has been your favorite player drafted by your team? And you can't cheat on me. It can't be traded for. Right? It's got to be a player that's been homegrown in your team's system and brought up, rise through the ranks. Sometimes they don't even rise through the ranks. They just go
farm to table hockey.
Yep. Farm to table. These picks are cage free, range free, non-GMO. They farm to table. So as Randy Marsh, I think once.
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah. Randy Marsh once said historically in South Park, is this farm to table? So chew on that one and we'll come back to it.
It's only going to cost you $28 for that biscuit too. You know?
Exactly. Half my paycheck. Okay. We have a new tradition that we started last week. We had Richie Dunn on the show and he ran us through some trivia. So what better way to kick off this show than to keep that tradition going, baby? We got trivia here this morning hosted by our Chicago native and expert, Jonathan Radman Katz.
Well, as the Blackhawks expert, I have lots of really hard hitting trivia questions. So who was the first player during the Avalanche's first season? Nope. Who was the first player during the Avalanche's last Stanley Cup to score a goal that year?
The first player? Like in the regular season?
Regular season, baby.
So the first goal scored in the regular – it's Jack Johnson.
That is correct.
Wow. Former Jacket.
Jack Johnson, and they played against Chicago, and he sprung loose on a breakaway, and I think that may have been the only goal he scored all year. And it was a great night.
I like Jack Johnson, but that tracks. That sounds about right.
So, Trent, that was something I really did not think you were going to get, and so congratulations. I'm actually kind of speechless on that one. All right. Oh.
$20 Tim Hortons gift card in the mail for you, Trent.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, times are rough financially around here. So, every little bit helps.
Question. What hockey speedster is nicknamed the Russian Rocket?
Pavel Bure.
Okay. Trent, so that you're 2 for 2. Can you spell that name?
Yes. Pavelbure.
We're even getting some spelling bee in here today. That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scripps is coming up, by the way, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Let's see if what hockey team has won the most Stanley Cups?
Oh, Montreal Canadiens. Yeah.
That was all Grant.
Ooh, back in the saddle. Let's go.
Who had the most goals in the 2016-2017 regular season?
Was it Ovechkin?
That is incorrect.
I think I know it now.
16-17.
My senior year of college, I watched every game that year.
Not Stamkos, was it?
That is incorrect. Grant, this is double or nothing.
Was it Gaudreau?
Sidney Crosby, baby. Go Pen go.
With that, we move on to our history lessons today. And folks, do I have a discount for you? This is essentially 3 history lessons for the price of 1. And when I say the price of 1, I really mean they're all free because we don't charge subscriptions here at Hard Hat Hockey. So sit back, relax, and enjoy these history lessons. First and foremost, and as always, and now very fitting, we've got this history of the draft is sponsored by the Labrador Retriever Club. The Labrador Retriever Club maintains a special fund for the emergency care of labs who are abandoned across the country. Reach out today at thelabradorclub.com. What better way to enjoy the Stanley Cup in all its glory than with your new best friend? Go Labradors. Okay. Hope that hits home for everybody. Go Labs. In honor of having Jonny here for a little draft preview, the first history lesson is discussing what teams have never selected first overall. In order, Anaheim Ducks, Calgary Flames, Carolina Hurricanes, Minnesota Wild, Nashville Predators, Seattle Kraken, Vancouver Canucks, and the Vegas Golden Knights. There have been a combined 4 total Stanley Cups amongst those teams that I just listed who have never selected first overall. The Ducks won, I think it was 2007. You had the Flames in 2005, Canes in 2006, and then the Knights recently in 2023. That's not a lot of Stanley Cups, and I thought a very interesting and predictable trend given typically the franchise level talent, that generational talents that are drafted in that first overall pick, and seeing as these teams have never had one, that's why there's so few Stanley Cups amongst that list. Boys, any thoughts to this, or just some nice fun facts to chew on?
Excuse me. Any one of those surprise you, Trent?
As far as never selected first, or as far as the Stanley?
Yeah, because the Flames are kind of an older franchise. You'd think at some point, they would have got it. I'm sorry, I hate correcting you, but the Flames Cup was in '89. They lost the cup. I think it was 2004. Canadian teams haven't won it forever. That's just why it stood out.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're spotted. Yeah, they went to the cup. My bad.
Yeah,
it was '89.
Yeah. Those older teams, you just think at some point, because the way you have this worded, it's not just won the lottery. The Jackets have never won the lottery, but they traded up to get Nat. So none of these teams, and teams like Seattle and Vegas, even Nashville, I'd say okay, whatever, they're kind of new. If we're at their Nashville, they were throwing Minnesota in there, but yeah, a little surprised the list isn't that long.
I was surprised. There's a couple names on here that have had very bad season, and memorably bad seasons. So I thought, kind of shocked it's that long, I think, is the takeaway.
Yeah.
Johnny?
Very little comment on the history, but I did want to throw out that for the province of Alberta, where Calgary is based, you talk about, I think, an underrated hockey trip. You could hit up Banff for a little outdoor time and then go to a Calgary game on the side. I don't know if either of you have had the chance to be in Alberta, but I just had this little light bulb moment go off, and I figured I'd share it with the crew. But I just think, as, three red-blooded American men like ourselves, we could go on, or, anyone could really make a lifetime trip out of bopping around to the different Canadian hockey teams and getting to experience Canada. Just shout out Canada. The last thing I was going to say, I don't know if you guys saw the clip from Game 6 of the Canadian national anthem, since it was the last time they were going to be playing a game in Canada for this season.
Pretty electric.
Don't get me wrong. God bless America and the national. I mean, I'm all for it, but those Canadians got some pipes, man. They are proud.
There's a lot of patriotic pride there. I know there was some controversial antics there the last time the anthems were played in Florida, and we'll hop into that. Johnny, great segue, really. I would love to do that trip. I'd also love to get back to Vancouver. That's a trip that Haley and I took one time. Johnny, I know you've now been there. Fantastic town, and I didn't get to see a hockey game there, so would love to go and see the Canucks play. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Great segue into our history lesson number 2. If you watch Game 6, which if you're tuning into this podcast, I'm assuming that you did, you saw the great Edmonton Oilers tradition. They played La Bamba after sealing that victory and forcing the Game 7. Very electric, probably a very emotional moment for a lot of people. And where that starts was Joey Moss was a assistant to the equipment team for the Edmonton Oilers. Joey Moss, longtime fan of the team, had Down syndrome, sadly passed away in 2020, and loved the song La Bamba. Wayne Gretzky goes on to describe Joey at every year's Christmas party. There was a live band, and they would always play the song La Bamba, and he would ask for them to repeat it, and it was the only song that he wanted to hear all night. Thus, it became a tradition that they played at all Edmonton Oilers games. Fast forward, 6-year-old Ben Stelter became a very famous fan, also sadly passed away from brain cancer in 2022, but has been a kind of a staple in his own right for these Edmonton Oilers fans. He was essentially a celebrity for that season. I think they got eliminated in the Western Conference Finals. So if they could do justice by him and bring a Stanley Cup home and kind of honor his name and their family. He used to love La Bamba as well, and even went on record saying, quote, "Play La Bamba, baby." Everyone remembers how he said, "Play La Bamba, baby." So I didn't mean to make anyone cry this morning, but that is the history of why they play La Bamba. And I know it means a lot for a lot of people, so I wanted to touch on it. And boy, would that be cool if they could seal this up and play La Bamba echoing throughout the streets of Alberta.
That's why sports are great, boys.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a whole different level.
History lesson number 3, and this is going to take us straight into our analysis. In 1942, the Toronto Maple Leafs came back against the Detroit Red Wings down 3-0 to win the Stanley Cup. They were the only team in the MLB, NBA, or NHL that has come back from 3-0 to win a championship. And that was also the first Cup final to need 7 games. Fun fact. So there are your 3 history lessons for free this morning. Right into Florida Panthers versus the Edmonton Oilers. A week ago, we were on the podcast discussing the Florida Panthers being up 3-0. We even gave out a ghost award to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Well, my oh my, how that has changed. It's now 3-3. In games 1 through 3, the Florida Panthers had 12 odd man rushes for 3 goals. That has essentially been eliminated. In games 4 through 6, the Panthers had 1 odd man rush for 0 goals. Oilers have 18 goals for in the last 3 games compared to the Panthers 5. There has been
a lot of goals.
A lot of goals and a bit of a drought on that Florida side as well. Notably, Conor Bedard scored 1 goal in game 1, has not scored since. The Panthers power play has scored once this entire series. Oilers in the last 3 games are 3 for 13. So not banging down the door, but have found a little more sustained success than they had in the first 3 games at least, which has got to play into their momentum. Corsi favors the Panthers the last 3 games, weirdly. So 53, 66, and 56% Corsi for respectively. However, it
just shows you how useful that.
Exactly. And I added it on purpose for you, Grant, because the Corsi says one thing, but the expected goals for is pretty skewed in favor of the Oilers the last 3 games. So expected Oilers 4.9, 3.8, and 2.8 versus the Panthers 2.5, 3.2, and 1.9. The Oilers beat the Panthers in every single game for expected goals for, and obviously won all 3 of those games. So, yeah.
They beat the brakes off of them Friday night.
They did. And here's a note I'll start with. This was essentially...
I'm going to come right back on this.
But believe it or not, this was the undercard. And it's been a fantastic series. We've seen momentum swing wildly in 2 different directions.
And if there's a team that's like well ran enough or operating in a position where they can find themselves and get that defense back going, like, yeah, I do believe it is the Panthers. But if you're the Oilers, though, you're feeling great. And as you should.
Yeah, you're feeling great. I don't think momentum is going to do anything for the Oilers.
If Edmonton gets like the first goal and it's like a clean break or it's a power play or just one of these goals we've seen Edmonton just rely on, I don't know, man.
It's
gonna feel very similar.
That's a scenario that I can get behind that, and that brings me to my next question. Bobrovsky's seems demoralized. He's been shelled, and obviously the 18 goals in the last 3 games. Now, granted, some of those are empty netters. However, just to your point, if he lets up a first goal, 2 goals in the start of Game 7, at what point are we acknowledging that the Panthers have a newfound goalie problem?
Well, okay, so I get what you're saying, and there's always going to be a part of the dialogue when a team's reeling to look between the pipes. You mentioned it when you ran down your stats, like expected goals. Edmonton is getting good opportunities. These aren't low percentage shots that are finding the back of the net. These are breakaways. These are power plays. These are like the ones you think a team as good as Edmonton's going to bury. So it's not like Bob's just screwing up. Like some of these are like McDavid's magic in Game 5. And some of these are, breakaways that we saw in Game 6. Like these are high percentage, high leverage scoring opportunities that talented players take advantage of. This isn't Bob, screwing up in a way that you're scratching your head.
Good. I agree. It's a question that's been posed this week by a lot of different media outlets. So wanted to get your thoughts on it. Jonny, any thoughts on this series?
Well, I think you just need to acknowledge a superstar is a superstar. And obviously McDavid is not the only reason why the Oilers have come back. But I just get this feeling in my gut when they were down 3-0, McDavid's like, I'm literally not going to let us get swept. We're going to take it one game at a time, but we're going to win the next game and we'll see what happens. And he basically did. What do you have? 4 points in that game. You turn around, then it's game 5. He brings back another 4 points. And you have LeBron in basketball. You have Patrick Mahomes in football. Like, I think there needs to be less blame put on the Panthers for this downfall and just more appreciation for how great this player is. And, at a whole, how the Oilers have responded. But I mean, this is a career defining moment for someone like McDavid, in my opinion.
That's really well said, Jonny. It's nowhere near the appropriate time to think about some kind of goalie change or finger pointing for that matter if you're in that Florida Panthers locker room or just a fan of the Florida Panthers. It's time to rally around your team. It's been a very dramatic swing of emotions here, let alone the miles traveled. How demoralizing are those flights to and from Alberta from Fort Lauderdale? And multiple times have you in the course of 10 days. That takes a lot. That takes a toll on the body. You've got to be tired and just drained from taking a commanding 3-0 lead to now letting that slip away. I still think the Panthers obviously can win this thing at home. In fact, I'm still, as we record right now, I think I'm still on the outs of who I'm picking, but I do think this game goes to overtime. I think it's going to end in the most of dramatic fashions, and someone's going home with a broken heart.
Wouldn't that be something?
Ask me at the end of this episode, and we'll all come back to it and go around with our predictions. That pretty much concludes the analysis for the Cup matchup. Did anyone have anything else for Oilers Panthers? Okay, cool. We'll roll right in to our NHL Draft preview. Folks, this is the first of its kind for Hardhead Hockey. So you got yourselves a treat here. Not only are we going to talk about the draft that is on the 28th of June, just a mere 5 days away.
We've coming up.
We've got
long cups.
And that's a funny thought too. So it's so funny to me. Phones are blowing up this past week about all the trades and transactions going on that essentially the teams playing for the Stanley Cup can't participate in this. So it's like all these 30 other teams are getting a head start on the offseason, while the two teams playing for the Stanley Cup have to just focus on the here and now. I don't know. It's kind of convoluted in a way that they're being punished and really can't, like Jacob Markstrom, for example, was traded from the Calgary Flames to the New Jersey Devils this past week. Maybe that's a player that the Oilers or the Panthers look at in the offseason would have been interested in, but because they made it this far, they really couldn't come to the table to even address that situation.
I think both these teams will be fine. Yeah, no, it is funny just seeing like so much movement going on while there's like a really impressive 7-game Stanley Cup going.
Jonny, my man. Now I said the loop earlier. What is it specifically?
Yeah, I mean you're right in the ballpark. No pun intended. You got the loop, you got the West Loop. I live, for all the listeners out there who want to stop by, about 3 miles outside the South Loop, Chicago, and it's about a 35-minute bike ride to one of the worst baseball franchises out there right now in the White Sox that I still find a way to watch almost every day. I'm about 7 miles south of the Chicago Cubs Wrigley Field. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Just a beautiful area. And folks, if you're looking for Jonny around the Chicago area, we're going to make sure we hook him up with some hard hat hockey swag sooner rather than later. And you too will be able to access that by the end of the summer. I would say we're going to at least acquire some good looking t-shirts, good looking hats.
Oh, that's fun.
In assorted grays, some whites, maybe some creams in there. I don't know. I'll talk to the wife. We'll get the Porter Paints color scheme out and just really just dive into the creativity. Maybe we'll hire a creative team. I don't know. With all the subscriptions that we've been selling and all these bets that we've been winning, we've got a surplus to play with here.
The money stays in the content.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonny, tune me up. We've got a draft coming up. This is a big one for Chicago. So San Jose Sharks sealed the deal, taking the number 1 pick. And let's just be real. Macklin Celebrini from Boston University is going to the San Jose Sharks, folks. That is one bet I'm certain I can win today. And then after that, we've got the Chicago Blackhawks sitting at the number 2 position. They also have the number 18 pick, a very important draft for this franchise that's looking to turn things around and restore that glory from the Kane and Jonathan Teos days. Duncan Keith comes to mind, Brent Seabrook, a lot of notable Chicago Blackhawks that were on those Cup teams. Would love to see this team turn it around. Who we got, Jonny? Who we drafting? Who's going to support Conor Bedard and return this team to glory?
Yeah, so I break it down into 3 needs. One is pretty much one that every other team also needs, but it's a game breaking forward. Number 2 being a right shot defenseman, and number 3 being just a forward with size in general. And so when you look at the number 2 pick, just my opinion, you got to go with the best forward, the guy that's going to be able to be, Crosby, Malkin, that type of duo that we're trying to develop here. So my gut tells me, I believe it's Demidov is the appropriate pronunciation. I think the Blackhawks go with him, number 2, and that means the defenseman who, Levshunov, Artyom Levshunov. I believe he'll get picked up well before 18. And so we'll end up going with a forward with size, maybe someone like Caden Lindstrom. At the end of the day, Kyle likes great skaters. And so he's going to go with that 18 pick, someone who can skate, got some size, maybe a little more raw. But that's where my gut is today on where the Blackhawks go.
Ivan Demidov played in that MHL league in Russia, was second in scoring in that league.
He plays for SKA in St. Petersburg. That's one of with them and Cessna. It's like the 2 big.
It's one of the big ones. Yeah.
Other teams over there. He's a big body. He skates really well for his size. He's a guy that I've kind of had my eye on for the Jackets, picking at 4. I know we're talking a lot of Chicago here, not to make it all about the CBJ, but they're right up in there. So he's definitely a guy I can keep my eye on. If the Blackhawks do take him at 2, that's them. I feel like really going for like a high ceiling type of pick, which is typically the case with these KHL guys.
Demidov seems like, you said it best, he's got a lot of potential, very high ceiling. He's been playing with grown men in his days leading up to the NHL, which comparatively to some of the other leagues, like maybe the Q, WHL,
even college hockey.
Yeah, even college hockey. Like sometimes it takes a couple years on that investment to play out, and you're really just playing a waiting game and seeing if it's gonna come to fruition or not. And it's a gamble. With Demidov, I think you've got more of a surefire solution, and this is a guy that will elevate, if it's even possible, elevate Bedard's game to an even further level and really capitalize on that chemistry. Let's be honest, a lot of this last season, you saw a lot of solo heroics on Bedard's part. And now if you give him a partner in crime, a little tombstone Doc Holliday support from the flanks, I think you're going to be looking at a lethal duo. Now, here's a thought for you. With this number 18 pick, I know you mentioned a larger forward. I got my eye on U.S. national team development player E.J. Emery, right-handed defenseman, going to be a North Dakota commit for the upcoming season. North Dakota, of course, playing in the NCHC, longtime rival of the DU Pios. E.J., to me, seems like a guy who also a high ceiling, noted as one of the best just pure defensive defensemen in this draft. And for a blue line that obviously could use a boost as well, I think this pick would make a lot of sense after, of course, selecting Demidov. If you don't select Demidov at 2, now maybe looking at something different. But what are your thoughts on a defenseman at 18?
Well, just to kind of circle back real quick to Grant and his CBJs, I figured you guys hadn't had an episode since they had some big news this past week. And so I was curious, Grant, is it Pascal leaving?
Yeah, Pascal's been
relieved of, 6 days ago. How does that impact at all CBJ's, draft strategy? I feel like that was a pretty big deal.
Big deal. I don't think it'll change things too much. So if we go back even farther to that news, the Jackets hired a new general manager going on, I think almost like a couple weeks, 3 to 4 weeks ago, Don Waddle from Carolina. And once he's been brought in, they've essentially given him the keys of the whole operation. So he was going to be the guy making the picks, even if Pascal was still around. Obviously, your coach is involved, but it was going to be Don's show. So we got to find a new head coach now, but I don't think that will affect draft strategy because we're not at a point where, the coach has an identity. Even if Pascal was here, all the respect in the world to him, I think he has a future coaching in this league. And I know Trent has us on the rundown, so maybe we can get into it. But he never had a fair shake here. We need a direction. We need to start rowing in the same direction here. And Waddle's going to be the guy to do that. So they also re-signed a draft pick from a few years ago, Yegor Chinakhov, the Russian winger, similar to Demidov in a lot of ways. So I think it'll be telling what we do with Don in control. Now at the 4th pick, we're really at the mercy of the teams ahead of us. Really, what Chicago does and what Anaheim does. I think we all know what San Jose is going to do. But yeah, depending on what your Blackhawks do is going to really, affect the future of the Jackets, which is exactly what happened last year too.
Well, I think that's very well said. It makes a lot of sense. I'll see you down at the Arena District maybe sometime next fall.
Oh, we definitely.
We can have a couple at Dick's Last Resort if that spot's still open. Man, that was a strange place. Just strange. But to Trent, your point on EJ. So one, I love a kid from California. I don't know and love to get your guys. Are there a lot of California professional hockey players?
No.
I can't imagine, that there's a draw. You're thinking football, baseball in California. So Compton, California, the kid is, cut from the right cloth. I wouldn't hate it at all. So, big kid, 6'3", $176. It makes, and I think you got a lot of upside there. So I don't hate it.
Bedard needs a supporting role, a supporting cast. Seth Jones needs a supporting cast. That's a guy who you're spending a lot of money on Seth Jones right now. If you could give him a little boost to make that contract a little more worthwhile, I think that's going to put a smile on a lot of Chicago fans' face.
Good.
Well, I got a hot take on Bedard. It's not even that hot of a take, but I think the best thing that happened to Bedard last year, the best thing is he got his jaw broken. I mean, you talk about a wake up call on, hey kid, you're great. You're going to be amazing, but welcome to the NHL. No, I'm not here to say I'm a fan of people getting injured, but it's kind of like in football, as a star quarterback, again, your first shot and you're like, oh, this is the league. I think Bedard's going to go back this offseason. He's going to put on some more weight. He's already fast. He's going to get stronger. He's going to get smarter on how to protect himself. I wouldn't be surprised if Bedard leads the league in scoring next year at all.
I wouldn't either. No, I really wouldn't either. If he's on the ice and he's just able to pin his ears back,
no,
I don't think that's out of the question.
The guy, and granted, I am a part-time scout for the Blackhawks at this point. I do play for the White Sox on the weekends as well when they need an arm.
If you've got
And
a jersey, we need you at lower, what's it called? Guaranteed rate field.
we need you at guaranteed rate. And then I am reinvigorating the meatpacking industry out here in Chicago with my blue collar background. But there's something about Bedard. It's the seriousness, the killer, and it's everything they talked about, like during the draft. But you just talk about a man that gets it. You know, the Kobe Bryants of the world, you know, Mahomes, Tom Brady. Like, I really do believe this sophomore year, like if you have $100 laying around, Trent, from all the money you've lost this year betting on hockey, I'd put $100 that he could take the points title.
You know, once we're off this episode, maybe we go halvesies on that.
I don't hate it at all. I think if he stays healthy and he comes back stronger, just as they said before, but like the sky's the limit for this kid. So yeah.
I love it. I know a lot of people hate Chicago, hate the team, but at the end of the day, all the original 6 teams have a bunch of haters. They also have a bunch of lovers. And hockey, admittedly, is better when the original 6 teams are thriving. And it'd be really cool to see Chicago turn this ship around on the back of Conor Bedard. So I think we're good on the drafts. Everyone satisfied?
I'm hoping the Jackets are able to get Caden Lindstrom from Medicine Hat. I think a combination of Lindstrom and Fantelli up the middle would be a lot of fun. I know that's not going to fix everything in Columbus, but I think Demidov's not going to fall. I hope we're saying his name right. I think Caden Lindstrom is not can't miss, but for like a 4th pick, you know, that's a pretty good value and a guy that I think would fit in well here in Columbus.
Man, homegrown center depth is about as sweet as Napa grapes on the vine. That's
very well said, Trent.
That's a good thought there, Grant. And Johnny, I'll wrap up the draft with one statement here. You mentioned just the homegrown hockey talent of Southern California. You remember like the ponds of Malibu and the ponds of Simi Valley. You had so many kids out there playing, you know, just getting the work, getting the reps in, getting the shots, skating on the ponds, and you know, down near Zuma Beach. You know, all kinds of hockey talent just homegrown down there.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like when the Pacific Ocean freezes over. You got the boys out there shooting some pucks.
Love to see it. Okay, folks, we've got a new tradition for you. I thought just with the explosive off-season updates, I thought it would be fun. So we're going to keep our NHL housekeeping segment that's going to be more focused to news of the league. So it's going to be similar segments here, but I wanted to create a specific chapter for literal exchange of a dollar amount. So anything related to pen to paper, a team is committing dollars to a player is going to now fall under our transaction train station. And if you've ever seen Polar Express, all aboard, baby. This train is rolling and it is hot. Coming out of Vancouver, Philip Hronek, 26 years old, signed to an 8-year by $7.25 million contract, coming off his 5-goal, 43-assist performance. He was a plus 33, and a huge reason Craig Berube found so much success in turning around that Vancouver team, who just a year prior was abysmal and was really looking to the drawing board. So I think this is a great signing, high value. I love the 8-year commit for a 26-year-old. This is a guy who could really be their number 2 or number 1A rather. Obviously Quinn Hughes. Wait, Quinn? Yes. Obviously Hughes it has the number 1 spot, but this is a guy who is a top pairing defenseman in the league at this point.
No, I think you nailed it. I think it's a good bit of business, and we talked about it earlier, man. A lot of things are flying off the shelf here.
Yeah, it's Black Friday sale in the NHL right now. Jacob Slavin, 30 years old, signs an 8 by $6.5 million contract with the Carolina Hurricanes, coming off his.
What a ticket! What a ticket!
Right, that's he locked in for really what's going to take him probably to the end of his career. At 30.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That was my kind of big eye opener there. He's 30 years old and they got him on an 8-year contract. He's been a loyal staple now for a couple years in that Carolina franchise, but I think that 6.5 is a pretty good value deal at this point for a guy of his caliber. But taking a guy to 38 years old is always a gamble, and that will be interesting to see if that plays out for them. A lot of question marks this offseason in one of the more interesting franchises to see what they're going to do, specifically with Marty Necas. So I like the move. Obviously, again, guy to 38 years old, always a risk. So we'll see how it plays out. A thought I had this week, all these GMs are essentially playing mad scientists in their own respective laboratories. And the ultimate goal is to find the chemical combination to create combustion, and that combustion being the Stanley Cup. So many GMs in their mad scientist role are so eager to make huge wholesale changes and to really blow it up. And I think there's something to be said for teams that kind of sit pretty. Maybe bring the throttle back to idle there for a second, because believe it or not, if you've got 22 different elements in the concoction, you may only be one away from creating that combustion that you're looking for. I look at the Vancouver Canucks who last season, they didn't change a whole lot going into this 23-24 season with Craig Berube, and they were able to strike fire. So I don't know. That's just, it's kind of I haven't really compared.
That's a good point. I like the way you tied that in.
You're not far away from being able to turn things around in the NHL anymore. I look at the Anaheim Ducks. I think that's going to be a team in this coming season that really makes a stand and takes a firm hold in their place in the Western Conference and makes the playoffs as early as next season. I also think they trade Trevor Zegras this offseason, but here nor there. Okay, that
might affect their draft. That might affect how they draft.
Look out draft day. I think we're going to have a fiery draft day in terms of the trade market.
I'm talking myself into this draft. I'm sorry. I know we just kind of covered it, but like earlier when we first started the show, I was like, this draft stinks. Last year was so much more exciting. It was such a dud. I don't even care where the Jackets get their pick. I'm talking myself back into it.
It's sneaky.
Going into this episode, I'm like, man, there's some studs in here. You gotta do your homework to find them. But teams are going to get better.
It's a sneaky good draft.
I don't know. I'm talking myself into it.
Yeah, it's sneaky good. You're a lot to be excited about. If you got one of those top 10 picks, game changers, obviously.
Why not be optimistic?
Johnny, why not?
Summer.
I have that false optimism, dude. Put on those blinders. Be that thoroughbred. Don't ask questions. Just run straight. Okay, Johnny, we're going to go into one of our now traditional segments, NHL housekeeping. And Grant and I say it every single week. This house is a mess. Johnny, you got to get your Swiffer, get your vacuum. Okay. I know Allison will appreciate you getting off your ass and doing something around the house, right? Clean it up. Okay. Here we are.
Well, I mean, Dyson is a sponsor, so shout out Dyson. Thank you.
I love it. Out of the gate, Los Angeles Kings trade Pierre-Luc Dubois and that 8.5 by 8 year contract, so $8.5 million by 8 year contract to the Washington Capitals for Darcy Kemper. Lot of different ways to look at this. From a LA Kings perspective, it's a sigh of relief. How Rob Blake got out of this contract, I won't know. And I think you now can shake off the cobwebs of a situation that wasn't working for anybody, hasn't worked for a lot of teams. And we'll see how he fits in the Washington Capitals. I don't really get this move for them, but if you're Rob Blake, you may have just saved your job. Grant, I know you've probably got some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I actively root against many players in the NHL. Most of it's reserved for Jackets rivalries. Like, I don't root for Crosby. I respect him as a player. That's such a cliche thing to say, but I don't hate anybody really around the league. To that, I don't actively root against PLD, but this guy, when he left the Jackets, a lot of what he was kind of searching for was being able to control his own destiny as a player and wanting to find the right spot and for his career was what he kind of the undertones of what he was talking about is sort of finding where could he be the guy. It seemed like LA was going to be that spot with that big ticket and that large contract. And now he's in Washington and, they made the playoffs. They got Ovi, but we've talked about this team. This is really throwing duct tape on a ship that I'm not going to say sinking, but they need to reinforce things more. And they'll be able to sell this to some of their fans and say like, listen, we're reloading. We're not rebuilding, but my goodness, it's not like he's going to like the Rangers or something where it's like, okay, you're right there. Like this team's not good and he's a good player. I don't think he makes them great in any capacity.
Couldn't agree more. Back to the LA side, a tough pill for that fan base to swallow. Yes, it is a relief to finally, you've got $8.5 million of free space now that you can play with this offseason. That's a lot of money and you can shore things up.
But you didn't need to sink that money to begin with.
Correct. And that's what I'm getting into right now is the pill to swallow is you essentially gave up Pierre-Luc Dubois, Alex Iafallo, Gabe Vilardi, Sean Durzi, Rasmus Kupari, and a second-round pick over the last couple years for Darcy Kemper. Darcy Kemper is a fine goaltender. He was on the 22 Avs team. Great guy. He's really, really nice guy in the locker room.
And he's getting a lot of ricochet shots around the league for this. It was not his, you can't blame him for that.
Yeah, you can't blame him for that, but that's a giant pill in exchange for the services of Darcy Kemper. So that doesn't feel great. And that's a lot of work that the LA Kings have done, a lot of their homegrown assets that they've shipped out the door so that they could make it work with PLD over the last couple years. And that obviously did not work out. So you really gotta close the door on that. You gotta move forward from this situation. And twist it in a positive way. You now have $8.5 million of space that you can really make a difference and shore up the team and get some better chemistry in there as well.
So you got a new logo.
Yeah, get that mad scientist, work some new elements in there, find that combustion. And with the new logo, times are looking up. Okay, Calgary Flames trade Jacob Markstrom to the New Jersey Devils for Kevin Ball, 23-year-old, and a 2025 first-round pick. Markstrom, 2.78 goals against average this past season and a .905 save percentage. The Devils are desperate for some goaltending. I think this is the answer that they were looking for. And as far as what they gave up, I think that's going to be the going rate, the going price. Everything is going to be inflated, especially this offseason with the cap going up, as you said. So I'm not surprised to see a first rounder going the other way. And hopefully Sheldon Keefe finds the crease, the answer in the crease with Markstrom here. I look to the Devils to really turn things around. Extremely disappointing season this year, given the talent they had. And this is also a step in the right direction for them. For the Flames, I think we're really at the drawing board here. Not a lot of clarity on a direction. It really since the Tkachuk trade. And now you've got Nazem Kadri, essentially their first line center. I'm not.
Who I like, but that's not. He shouldn't be in there.
Absolutely. Look, I like Kadri, but he shouldn't be.
That's not. Yeah.
So great move for the Devils. I think this is going to work out. Flames, we'll see. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Columbus Blue Jackets relieved Pascal Vincent as head coach. He was the associate coach in 2021. My only question was, given the coaching carousel that we saw over the last month, was this kind of a late move, or was this obviously a result of you kind of had to wait on what Don Waddle wanted to do and what direction he wanted to move forward with?
100% what you just said. Don came in, kind of took his time to get situated, met with Paz, and, a lot of people have said, he's a very smart guy. He's gonna have a future in this league. It's just not going to be in Columbus right now. We need kind of wholesale changes. We don't need, a new coach with same GM, new GM, same coach. Like we really need to reset the whole operation here. A lot of people who were in this organization were, talented in their own right. Jarmo put together a couple of really good teams. When Torts was here, he was a great coach. But you got to keep things moving and fresh in the NHL at a certain point. When things get stale, they get stale fast. And that wasn't Pascal's fault in any way. He got thrown into the mix after the Babcock debacle. And, at the same time, it was a tough season here in Columbus. And I don't put the full blame on him at all. But I will say, I was kind of hoping he was going to play the young guys a little more this year, and he didn't. And he's the one behind the bench, and he's the one at practice. So, he's the one in charge. I'm not. But I hope this is a move towards let's get somebody who's going to play the younger guys, these prospects that we're seeing. And Don just wants to have someone who's, his guy. And we see that a lot. And I'm disappointed that Pascal was never going to work here after the Babcock situation, I think. And that was such a shit show from the start. He's really grinded through the ranks. I remember reading a lot about his kind of resume that led to Columbus. It's pretty impressive. He's a younger coach. I hope he gets another shot because I think he can, win in this league. It's a shame that he kind of got his big break here, but it wasn't built on anything sustainable because of kind of how the changes were happening.
He'll get hired elsewhere. He'll have another opportunity for sure.
He'll probably go to be an assistant first again, which I know is not easy.
Speaking of new opportunities, Andrew Cogliano has officially retired. He finished his career with the Colorado Avalanche, played in 1,294 games in 17 seasons. He will be staying with the Avs front office. And I love when they do this with notable players, when teams just hire them under just a blanket statement. The job is not specific. It's just, this guy works in the front office for us now. As far as what that means, it probably is jack of all trades, like a Swiss Army knife. It's really just such a respectable veteran that you want around the franchise from the farm team to the professional, and who can, affect things in a positive way. So he was always known as an Iron Man, kind of like our Chicago expert and analyst, Jonathan Cates. Blue collar Iron Men. They can, Cogliano and Jonny have a lot of similar qualities, I would say.
We go way back.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, our last piece here for NHL housekeeping. Big news out of Arizona. The state auction, if you recall, there was going to be an Arizona state-led auction of land for the highest bidder. Turns out the only bidder was the former Coyotes franchise and their ownership. The state has since canceled the auction to give the Coyotes ownership an opportunity to obtain a special use permit. I know this got a lot of backlash, but this sounds like the state is trying to help them out so that they can build the arena in however capacity they see fit, because they were the only bidder. It kind of sounds like this is teed up for the Coyotes franchise to reestablish itself, and the state wants to.
Is this the land? Is this like Tempe? Do we know where this is? I dropped the ball on this. This is more up my alley. I should have absolutely, done more to realize this, but I'm focusing on the draft and some other stuff. So I apologize for this.
I do. This is the Tempe land auction.
Yeah. They're running out of spots.
They are. The Coyotes franchise has burned a lot of bridges near and around Phoenix proper, and they better, if they want to resurface and Arizona wants hockey again, they better get this right, is I think where we can leave it. Boys, we ready for the hard hats?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, the hard hats of the week are sponsored by Leroy's Bar. Located in the heart of Worcester, Ohio, Leroy's establishment has provided cheap pitchers and a safe haven for blue-collar workers alike since 1969. Leroy's can be your hockey home for all the NHL playoff action. Drink responsibly and drive safe. And since we've got 3 Leroy's veterans in the chat today, I think it is very appropriate to say that Leroy's brought us a lot of great memories together before we went on our own separate career paths, all, of course, blue-collar industries.
There's a really good photo of the three of us.
There is. At Leroy's too. Which probably.
Yeah. It was like Trent's like last day on campus, basically.
Oh, God, don't make me cry.
Yeah.
Underrated wings, $5 pitchers, and very,
wings.
very special Thursday night karaoke.
Yeah, great spot. Jonny, I didn't prepare you for this as well. So we typically.
It's okay, I'm ready to rock.
Each of us have 3 hard hats of the week every week. If you don't have.
It's like the 3 stars of the game. It's like your most, the impressive players.
Yep.
They don't have to be players. I usually improvise.
Are you ready, or do you want Grant to go first?
Oh, no. Well, it's going to be non-hockey, but I want to say this. So I had the pleasure of gracing Ford Field in Detroit this past week to see the one and only Zach Bryan perform. And I just want to give a hard hat of the week to all of the Detroit Lions fans for multiple Jared Goff chants during the concert. I had to say it on this. I know it has nothing to do with hockey, but it was just so special to see, we're talking about franchises in the hockey draft who are really trying to turn things around. To see and be in downtown Detroit with those fans who have been so desperate for any of their franchises to do anything, I got to give a hard hat of the week to everybody in Detroit who wears their Lions garb and cheers for what apparently is my somewhat lookalike, Jared Goff. God bless you. Go Lions.
Well, Jonny, it is relatable because you could argue probably 99% of those people cheer for the Red Wings. So you're good. It's appropriate.
Could you imagine being like a hockey fan in Detroit and not liking the Red Wings?
I think that's anti-religious.
Who would be like maybe Toronto if you're just like that close to Canada? Yeah.
Jonny, any other hard hats, or are you good there?
If you have a chance to go see Zach Bryan live, do it.
Copy that.
He was just in Columbus last night. He played the shoe.
Yep. Oh, I need to tone down my fanboyness, but yeah, it's.
No, I don't really. I'm not a huge like country music guy, so like he's got some good. He nailed it. He doesn't miss.
Puts on a show. Anyway,
Grant, your hard hats.
I will go at first one. I'm giving to Matthew Tkachuk for his goal line clearance in Game 5. That's one of those clips that you're going to see like forever. Just absolutely putting the body on the line. That's one of those like you'll see it. Like this is what hockey's all about. Like he's trying to keep his team in it, and then like McDavid scores, so it doesn't matter. But it's like that's what sets hockey guys apart. It was a gutsy play, gutsy move, cool highlight. Shout out to Matthew Tkachuk. My number 2 is Zach Hyman. I thought he had a great Game 6. Got that breakaway goal in the 3rd period, I believe. We talked about Ghost Awards. Zach Hyman's not been, he's been influential throughout the whole series, I think. So shout out to him. And number 1 is kind of a cop out, but it's got to be McDavid. That play, that kind of skated through the entire Panthers defense. We've talked about how suffocating the defense is for the Panthers. It is, but you can't defend that. That's how good he is. So shout out to all those guys. This has been a really fun series. I had semi-low expectations going into all of this. And then, obviously when the Panthers were up 3-0, it's like, yeah, this is kind of what we expected to a degree, but savor this, man, because this has been a lot of fun.
This has been a lot of fun. In support of Jonny's trip to Alberta and blue collar businesses, my 3rd hard hat of the week is going to the Canadian Ice House, which is a dive bar in the arena area down in Edmonton. And I know that they are reaping the benefits here of a big Stanley Cup run for the Oilers. So shout out to the Canadian Ice House. I hope the beers stay cold and keep the taps running, baby. You got a big one on Monday. Number 2, I got Chris Knobloch, head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. Just the poise to keep your team fired up after being down 3-0 and even get it back 3-3. That's huge. And then number 1, I've got Ben Stelter, the longtime fan that we mentioned earlier in the show, sadly passed away in 2022, but loved the Oilers, loved the song La Bamba, and boy, it would be something special. I've decided I'm not going to sit here and say who my prediction, because I don't want to jinx anybody, but man, would it be a beautiful moment if in downtown Alberta they can honor Ben Stelter and his family, turning up the loudspeaker, playing La Bamba for all of Canada to hear. That would be a lot of fun. And then also on the other side, bringing a Stanley Cup to Fort Lauderdale. I know those fans are eager beavers to throw the Rats on the ice. So we'll see how it goes. Jonny, this has been a lot of fun. We really appreciate you getting on and just sharing your hockey.
Yeah, thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, your hockey wisdom and your fandomship for the Blackhawks is felt now across the nation with Hard Hat Hockey. Again, folks, we're gonna get us some swag here really soon. You're gonna see the logos around on the streets. So take notice with the Hard Hat Hockey gear, with the famous Labrador with the Hard Hat coal miner's hat on. You can't miss it.